Welcome to My Tech Opinion, Episode 7. My name is Phil Edwards and I'm in Melbourne, and I'll be joined in a moment by my regular co-host in Perth, Shayne Johnston. This episode's feature topic will look at home video streaming and what services are available from an Australian perspective. So let's get the show underway now. Welcome to My Tech Opinion, Episode 7. My name is Phil Edwards and I'm in Melbourne, and I'm joined by my regular co-host who's in Perth, as you can see on the top of the screen, Shayne Johnston. G'day, Shayne. How are you?
Hey Phil, I'm well. Yourself?
Excellent, excellent. We'll have a bit more of a chat in a moment, but I just want to remind everyone that My Tech Opinion is brought to you by Aussie Tech Heads Web Hosting. So for great hosting plans and support, visit athwebhosting.com.au. For those who haven't caught the show before, My Tech Opinion covers off briefly on the latest in tech news and then has a look at a feature topic each episode. And it won't be often just us, even though today's episode will be, but we'll also invite guests to take a look at topics in depth where they are a specialist so that we can get a better understanding of what is going on in that area. That said, though, today's feature topic is home video streaming and what are some of the options available to you, particularly from an Australian perspective. Before we dive into this week's feature topic, let's have a quick look at the latest in tech news. And welcome to Tech News on My Tech Opinion. Let's have a look at our first discussion point for this week. In the wake of the Facebook scandal, Firefox now has a new feature. Firefox has made an extension for its own browser that restricts Facebook to its own little sandbox, preventing Zuckerberg and his mates from tracking you around the internet. When you install the extension, it will delete your Facebook cookies and log you out of Facebook, so that the next time when you're in Firefox, you visit Facebook, it will open in a new blue-colored browser tab or a container tab that will let you log into Facebook and use it like you normally would. That said, if you click on a non-Facebook link or navigate to a non-Facebook website in the URL bar, these pages will load outside of the container. That's actually really cool. And so basically what it is that, you know, when you go to a Facebook, you do a search for something on the internet. So you might look for a new car. You want to buy a new car, and then you go into Facebook, and every time you scroll through, the ad that comes up is for new car companies because Facebook likes talking and grabbing all your data and doing all this sort of stuff. So what this is allowing to happen is that it will hold Facebook in its own little container so that it can't talk to other things in your browser, which I think is really cool. Do you think this is a good thing and that other browsers or browser developers should be doing this sort of thing, Shayne?
I do. A couple of questions and thoughts on the topic. Up until this Facebook kind of drama kind of exploded, I wasn't actually aware that Facebook could actually look outside of its own environment and look at your searches and stuff. I mean, I expected when I did a Google search, especially if I was logged in, that I get ads within the Google environment about what I'm searching for because it's all Google. Didn't realize that Facebook its tentacles kind of reached outside of Facebook. So that was a kind of a news to me. The only other question I had was we know with this kind of functionality, are we losing anything within Facebook that is normally a benefit to us?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest. You've also, I think the other thing is you've got to care enough about it. A lot of people don't. And remember, this is in the Firefox browser. So some of the things that might happen on your mobile device where the majority of people tend to look at Facebook these days, it doesn't seem to work that way. That said, I don't. It does it on. I've got an Apple device. Apple are quite stringent in their lockdown processes, but it still cross pollinates for me. So I'm not quite sure how it all works, to be perfectly honest.
Mhm.
But anything to continue to containerize that and because it does freak me out a little bit when you look at when you see stuff on Facebook comes up about other, like, advertising and things like that that you might have searched of independently. So um yeah, this is a good idea. I think it's a little bit like when you use the incognito tab or the private browsing tab in Chrome or Firefox. So it doesn't, hide the content that you're looking for, but it does hold it separately so that it doesn't, save into your cookies and history and things like that. So I think it might be doing a similar sort of thing to that.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I had the exact same experience the other week. I think I was doing a search, not even logged into my Google environment, doing a search for itpro.tv kind of courses and stuff.
Yep.
And then within minutes, I was on Facebook and I was getting those ads in my newsfeed. It did freak me out a little bit.
I know. Yeah. And that's like, well, what do they then do with that data as well? So look, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We might move on to the next topic in the news. Apple this week held their education event at a school in Chicago to announce some new products and some new features. The Apple of Education event in Chicago announced a new 9.7-inch iPad with a faster processing, or their A10 system on a chip, and support for the Apple Pencil. Prices now start at $469 in Australia for the 32 gig Wi-Fi unit, and should be in stores by the time you watch this podcast. Classroom and schoolwork apps, as well as a API called ClassKit, make a coherent place for teachers to handle their students' work, and for developers to make apps that tie into that. Apple also made a series of online courses to help teachers learn to use all the new features in iOS, and have created a product called Everyone Can Create, a curriculum for teachers to use to aid students in using their iPads. Apple also remembered that they've got a little word processing product called Pages, which they've given not a lot of love to of recent times. They've remembered it exists and gave it Apple Pencil support, as well as Garage getting a few updates designed to make it more useful for kids too. Logitech also announced at the event a new crayon stylus that actually looks better than Apple's Pencil, and it's much cheaper, but the Apple version has better specs as well. And new iPad and iPhone case colors for spring, because everything's seasonal, and the availability of standalone space gray mice and keyboards and trackpads that were previously limited only to those people who had purchased an iMac Pro. So all the prices and things like that are up on the Apple website. Some people were a bit disappointed by what Apple came out with. I sort of think people are expecting too much, but I think that the Apple Pencil support on the standard iPad was a good move from Apple's part. You're not particularly an Apple user, Shayne. I know that. Do you care on this? Do you not use tablets? What are your thoughts?
I'm not a big tablet user, to be honest. I mean, I bought the only tablets that I've got are kind of all Android-based tablets, but
Yep.
I'm more of a, because I'm old. I like keyboards and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And but even though I'm not in the Apple ecosystem, obviously with the podcast and the fact that I'm in the industry, I need to kind of be at least aware of what the enemy are doing. So
Yep.
I have a couple of questions that I'm wondering whether you can kind of clarify for me in
Sure.
relation to this release. With the pencil support on the iPads, does that mean that the existing iPads pick it up through some sort of software update, or is it only just
No. You
okay?
need the new ones to do that. But it does reduce the cost of entry to get that pencil support. So let's have a quick look. doing this sort of research whilst we're on recording is always a good thing to do. But
Shows that we're live.
oh, absolutely. So for we'll say for a base model iPad, which is a 32 gig Wi-Fi, which I would recommend getting bigger than that. So 469 for silver and 599 for 128 gig in Wi-Fi. Or seven. So it goes from 469 to 799 if you get a 128 gig Wi-Fi and cellular. But 469 is the base. Now, if we go then back to the iPad Pro.
The other thing that's interesting, I heard a lot of this stuff on one of Trevor Long's podcasts, and they were talking about how the Mini is actually more expensive than the base model iPad.
The Mini is a waste of time at the moment.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go anywhere near an iPad Mini, which I just think Apple's stupid. So yeah, so 469 for an iPad Wi-Fi, 9.7 inch, and then there's the 10. So then you're going up to a minimum on the iPad Pro, and it does have other features. So smart keyboard you don't need batteries for, stereo speakers, better display, and things like that. But you're looking at a 10.5 inch, which is slightly bigger than the standard iPad. You're looking at $979 as a starting point. And then you can go to the 12.9 inch iPad, which I bit too big for my liking. We'll spec that out and go to the top model. So if you go to a 512 gig Wi-Fi and cellular iPad Pro, so top spec, full thick, that's $1,900.
You can get a really good laptop for that.
Yeah. So interestingly, I bought a new iPad last year, so I've bought the model that's just been superseded, so I don't get pencil support. It's enough for me, what I use it for, because it's basically email, web browsing, and videos when I go on holidays, really. And when I say videos, I watch videos. I don't use an iPad as a camera because I have a personal iPads are not cameras. They have a camera, but they're not cameras. Please, if you're watching, don't take your iPad on holiday and use it as a camera.
No.
And if you can't see a screen on any other device, get glasses.
I think
personal thing.
Excuse me. I think the main gripe people have with people using iPads as cameras is that if they're standing behind them, they can't see past this big square thing.
I know. So for me, the funny thing is though, is that I went and bought a Logitech case that has a keyboard in it. Because I've also got an iPad. I've got two iPads because I'm a weirdo. I've got an iPad for work that they provide standard with that like stand case. And I found that I use it a lot more because of that. So I went and bought a similar case for my personal iPad. And I find it really good from a stand point of view. The other thing is, I'm going to give you a tip without even asking for it here. The best product I have ever created, and I was going to see if I could see it offhand, but I can't, was that when I went overseas last year for a month, I made my own iPad stand that works with my existing case, and it was a piece of string. And it was about a 50 centimeter piece of string tied in a loop. And what I was able to do with it is that when you're on a plane, and you don't want to watch the stuff on the seatback screens that they provide, is that you loop it through the back of your case, you tuck the string in between the plastic shell that faces you on your side and the seat in front of you, and the seat cushion on the seat in front of you, and it hung perfectly over the screen on on the plane, and I could watch it perfectly hands-free the whole flight. So yeah, awesome. Loved my little thing.
Very creative.
That said, I also noticed that the new Qantas Dreamliners have a device stand built into it now. And there are some flights that I did a flight from Perth, weirdly enough, about I think it was about 18 months ago, that had Qantas had provided iPads instead of in-flight entertainment, but the back seat back actually had a clip that would hold an iPad, so you could put your own in there as well if you wanted.
Okay.
So yeah, there
So
you go.
did that? I wonder what would have happened if, like, the person in front kind of leant back and all that kind of stuff. Whether either option would have kind of been affected
No, not at all,
by that.
because I
Okay.
did.
All
It was
right.
all good.
On a side topic, when you
Yes.
started looking at, like, this is an omen, but when you started looking at the iPad stuff, you did get the dreaded your internet connection is unstable.
Okay.
Just something to
Well,
be mindful of.
hopefully we'll be okay. Well, we're mainly hoping our audio is okay. For those who may be watching on our video stream via YouTube, is that I do look a bit choppy because unfortunately I'm running off an ADSL connection until the wonderful NBN arrives, which is due to happen very soon at my house. And then we hope to have a better video going. I think my video is actually quite clear. It's just at a very low frame rate. So we'll see what happens. Anyway. Final item in the news. Google, they're clamping down on uncertified Android distributions. Google has had enough of people loading uncertified Android devices with Google apps like the Play Store, Gmail, Google Maps, etc., and getting around Google's terms of use and requirements for these apps. Make sure people distributing version. Sorry, I'm reading that wrong. To make sure people distributing a version of Android with Google's apps get Google's blessing to do so, it started warning users that their device is not certified when they log into Google services. Those using custom ROMs on their phone can still do so, but they have to manually whitelist their device on Google. The change is mostly designed so retailers don't get non-certified Google devices, preload it with dodgy apps, and try and pass it off as a Google certified device to unwitting customers. I think this is cool.
Sorry, I can't.
Google Mini just decided to hark up again to scare the crap out of me. Yeah. So I shouldn't be careful about saying the G word.
Yeah, exactly. You should hear what happens in my place when, like, an ad for the Google Home or the Google Mini comes on TV.
Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah.
So, question out of that last story. I think it's great that they're doing what they're doing for the kind of non-standard devices.
Yep.
Wonder if they'll apply the same sort of restrictions around their own devices that were once kind of approved and whatever, but they're that old, they've kind of fallen off support, all that kind of stuff. Wonder whether they'll take the same back.
I have no idea on that. It'll be interesting to see. It's the danger of having effectively an open source operating system that you distribute it to get as many people using it, but then people get a device where it doesn't work as well as they want, and they complain to Google because of it.
Yeah, so they're covering their butt. And I think also the other thing that they're kind of concerned about is that even though the operating system's open source, I don't believe that the apps themselves would necessarily be. So I guess they need to kind of protect the app developers and all that kind of stuff, or at least put some sort of buffer up between people that are using the non-standard operating system, which then potentially could affect negatively how these apps perform, and people then incorrectly blame the app developer or blame Google or whatever.
Interesting. Yeah, and look, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that what Google are doing in this particular, I said the G word again. I wonder if she'll go nuts at me. I think what Google are doing in this particular case is they're not saying you can't use it on uncertified devices, but they're just making sure that people are aware that it's not a certified device. Anyway, so that's it for the news. We might take a very short break on my tech opinion, and we'll be back with our feature topic and a bit of random banter straight after this. And welcome back to My Tech Opinion. It's now time for our feature topic, but before we get into that, we sort of got into the news pretty quick, Shayne. So I thought I'd just check in how you're going. And you've been in the wars a bit recently. Everything all good now?
That's wood. I have been okay since the previous recording, which was probably about 2 weeks ago, or at least a week ago.
Yep.
I lose track, but yeah. So I'm still getting treatment and all that kind of thing. I've got to go and see kind of another doctor type person tomorrow. So I get a 5-day weekend, which is good.
I feel like.
Yeah, and hopefully, all being good, I'm still on medication for the next couple of months.
Yep.
But as far as being sick and feeling sick, hopefully it's all behind me because not only over it sort of physically, but mentally and emotionally, I'm over being crook.
That's completely understandable. I completely understand that. I'm glad to hear. Well, and I'm glad to hear that everything's going well on your side too. So all within reason. So yeah. All good here too. Nothing more to add. Just continuing on as per usual. Interestingly enough, in prep for this episode, I signed up, which is against my better judgment, to be honest. I signed up for a Foxtel Now, a trial subscription at least, because there's some shows that Foxtel produce that I can't get anywhere else. And so I have been watching those the last couple of days on and off in the midst of doing all this other stuff. So, yeah, that's about it. That's about as exciting as it gets.
Yeah.
I'm really boring. I've sort of enjoyed trying to have some downtime over the weekend, middle of family dinners and lunches and all that sort of stuff. Because we are recording this on the Easter weekend, I should say, to our listeners and viewers out there. That's why Shayne's getting a 5-day weekend and I'm sort of crapping on about a long weekend. So, there you go. That's exciting as it gets.
So I'm also considering taking the streaming plunge as well. I'm thinking about signing up for both Netflix and Stan. I've got a HD TV, but I don't have 4K or anything, so I don't have to kind of go for the top option. But it'll be interesting to see how it kind of goes, whether I kind of make the most of it. Because, I don't want to steal all our thunder from the actual topic, but currently I just either watch YouTube videos or catch up services, or I can get access to the CBS kind of website and watch their catch up stuff. But yeah, so that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, and it comes down to which we'll talk about when we officially kick the topic off in a moment, but it comes down to what you're actually interested in. Because if there's nothing on there that you don't want to watch, there's no point. But anyway, we might actually just jump into our feature topic.
Since we kind of started talking about it
already. So this week is home video streaming, and we just wanted to talk about what options are out there. I know that Netflix has been in the market officially for nearly 2 years, or just on 2 years now. And we're at a situation where it's like, well, everyone else is jumping on the bandwagon. We've had a few people drop off. And it's like, well, okay, where do we go from here? And what options are available and what's the difference between them and things like that. So we thought we'd throw that in there and talk about what some of the other, we'll say, grey area services that are available when you talk about streaming platforms. So I think we might as well start off with Netflix. Now, there was a slide I think you've got ready there, Shayne.
Yeah, let's just do that.
That has some of our options that are available from an Australian perspective.
I think that might be the right one.
Yep. So some of these are slightly different now, but it gives us a bit of an overall view. So what we've got here, if you're watching on the video, but we'll describe it for you, is a list of some of the locally available streaming services. most recognizable and the most popular, of course, is Netflix. Netflix have got a product that has a lot of existing content from other content providers and TV shows, but they're progressively moving to an original content model, and they're spending billions of dollars on their own content. Obviously, House of Cards and Orange is the New Black are the big ones in there, but there are a number of things coming through, such as Stranger Things and so on and so forth, that really keep their name on the map. The monthly price in Australia starts at $8.99 for Netflix, which is a purely an SD product, going through $11.99, which I think is what a lot of people use. And then there's the $14.99, which gives you additional streams, but also potentially 4K resolution if you've got an internet connection that can handle it. They've got native apps on just about everything. So consoles, game consoles, PS4, PS3, Xbox, Wii, Xbox 360, Wii U. Then, of course, there's hardware like the Apple TV, the Telstra TV, the Chromecast. There's also the Fire TV and things like that, as well as the iOS apps and mobile apps, and then smart TVs. A lot of them even have a Netflix button now, so that you press a Netflix button on your remote and it takes you directly into Netflix. And the interesting thing about Netflix is that the required minimum speed for them is only 0.5 megabits. As I yawn, 0.5 megabits a second. And on a few providers such as Optus, IONET and Internode, which I'm not sure if that still applies, they are unmetered. So you've got a good range, and Netflix is sort of that ubiquitous service, and a lot of people have Netflix, but then they aim that they will have a secondary service as well. So they might have Netflix, and then they might add a Stan service or a Foxtel Now or whatever. The next service is the Australian grown Stan, and that sits around $10 a month, but they do have various pricing plans. You can get up to 4K video with Stan now, even though on our slide it says HD. They've updated that 4K on their high-end plan. And Stan have been pretty good about getting their app on a number of products. So PS4, PS3, Xbox One, as it says there. Also on the Apple TV, Telstra TV, Chromecast. But they are also on, for example, they're on the Apple TV 3, which was a very closed platform. So they were able to get their product in there. There was also some smart TVs have the app, and I know it's on mine. It does say there that 1.5 megabits per second is the minimum speed required. I think I have seen it running a bit slower from here. Now, we're going to jump the next one, which is on the list, which is Foxtel Now, because that's a bit more complicated, which we'll go through in a moment. Then there's Amazon Prime Video. Prime is the US service from Amazon, but it is limited in Australia because of some of the copywriting rules. And they are offering that for US $5.99 a month, but $2.99 a month for the first 6 months if you sign up now, and that can give you up to 4K resolution. They are available on Apple TV, Fire tablets, all the Amazon products, as well as increasingly the Apple products, whether it be of the iOS or Apple TV variety, and it is on a lot of smart TVs. So that particular slide there on the screen says Samsung and LG. I do have it available on my Sony TV. You were going to say something, Shane?
Yeah, question. Because it's available obviously in a lot of TVs, especially the new ones, and you can get it on devices that you connect to your TV.
Yes.
Given the choice, is it better to watch it through the native TV app or through a dedicated box or what?
It will depend on what you're actually looking at watching. So I find that the Netflix app on the Apple TV is far superior. However, on my Apple TV, and the Apple TV has been upgraded, and I haven't paid for the 4K version at this stage, and I don't have an internet connection. But on the 4K I'm really yawny this morning. I apologize. um, the yeah, so it depends on what your device can handle. So if your third party device can only handle full HD and you want to watch in 4K, and you've got a 4K TV, then it's unlikely to be able to support 4K. So the native app most likely will. That's on your actual TV itself. So then you're better off doing that,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because I've got an LG. I think we bought it in 2014,
Yep.
and it's definitely got Netflix and YouTube built in. I haven't actually watched it a lot because I spend a lot of time just either in here,
Yep.
on the computer or in the bedroom, which has got another TV, obviously a lot smaller, but it's got a Chromecast attached to it.
Yep. So yeah, okay, and it depends. Look, it depends on what you're doing. I've not really worried. I've got a 4K TV, but in my lounge room, but I haven't. I don't really have any 4K content. So, um, because it's not really needed. Like I don't have an internet connection that support it. I haven't bought a Ultra HD, Blu-ray player, things like that. But it is something that I'll be looking at more and more. As I've mentioned on a previous show, moving into a new house, or knocking my current house down and moving into a new house that way, where I will be getting a very large 4K TV for that. So I'll be making sure I have the right content for that place. I'm just going to have a drink for a second. So, was there any other questions you had, Shane?
I do. I think what we might do, because we might actually have my questions answered when we finish the slide and go through the last couple, like the YouTube and the couple at the bottom.
Amazon Prime Video is an interesting one because in the US it's linked to the Amazon Prime service. So you pay about $100 a year in the United States, and you get expedited shipping on products and things like that. And you can sign up for the video separately, but the Amazon Prime service allows you, gives you that shipping, but they then throw in additional functionality as well. So, um, uh, you get some music, you get Kindle books, but you also get Prime Video. So they estimate, I think, 50 to 100 million Americans have actually Amazon Prime members.
Really?
So yeah, uh, it, you can see why the Prime will add on now. In Australia, they haven't announced. They've announced that they're going to have Prime this year, but they haven't announced it yet. So if you were using Amazon a lot with an expanded Amazon offering in Australia, and then you got the Prime service as a throw-on, you're always going to use it, even just as a side note, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
How many? Let's have a look and see how many Prime members there are. Amazon Prime subscribers 2017, 90 million they estimated in September 2017. So if you're a Prime member, you automatically get access to Prime Video, whether you watch it or not.
So if you kind of look at that figure and think, okay, well, not every individual in America needs to have their own Prime account. It'll be like per household.
Yeah.
There's probably, on average, maybe, even if we be conservative and say that on average there's 3 people in a household.
Yeah.
That means that's 270 million people that are being serviced by these Amazon Prime accounts. They've only got a population of 350 million.
That's right. So it shows you how deep Amazon are in that ecosystem in the United States.
Mm.
So, people have got to want to do it. But the American market's very different because they're used to paying for content. They have paid for content for numbers of generations. For Australia, up until Foxtel, we never bothered paying for, and even Foxtel we have issues with. We might continue moving on though.
Yep.
So the next service is Hey You. Hey You is an interesting one. It is purely like a reality show. So if you want to watch Kardashians, you want to watch, that sort of content. I have. Let's have a look.
Survivor and all that kind of stuff.
No, it's not even that good.
All right.
Let's have a look. Hey You. What does Hey You offer? EU.com, and we have
Big Brother, that kind of thing.
no, it's not even that good reality. So it's all trash stuff. So shows A to Z, 100 Days of Summer. What is it? All About Albury. I have no idea what it's about, but it's far too many attractive people. Bad Girls Club, Barely Famous. They've got a show called Barely Famous about a private yacht crew called Below Deck. Bethany and Frederick, which just looks disturbing.
They all sound like porno titles.
Blood, Sweat, and Heels. Botched about bad surgery. Botched post-op. Botched by Nature. Courtney Loves Dallas. Weird. Citizen Rose, a reality show with Rose McGowan. Cyrus versus Cyrus, Design and Conquer. So something about the Billy Ray Cyrus family. Don't Tell the Bride. I mean, there's a load of crap on there. The fact that all these are being made.
Won't be signing up for that channel.
Yeah, no, it doesn't particularly interest me whatsoever. Probably got Honey Boo Boo or something like that. A show called Hey Paula, Paula Abdul, which just says yes. I Am Kate, the Caitlyn Jenner. Ice Love Coco. Life Loves Coco. Yeah, so you get the idea. I'm not going to keep going through it because really it's ridiculous. Jerry Springer's on it. So there you go. That says it all. The Jerry Springer show's on there.
They would have to be reruns. He's not still doing his show, is he?
Oh, I think he still is.
Oh, wow.
He's looking a bit weird. Oh, yes. Season 21.
Must be.
So there you go. So Hayu's got a particular flavor to it that you've got to be interested in it to want to do it. So the other products we've got is YouTube Red. YouTube's moving into a subscription model. They offer no ads on no ads on YouTube channels, and then there's also premium YouTube Red content that they're making as well. They've got a couple of shows, but I think they're going to look at continuing that going on. And of course, YouTube is just available on everything. That's plain and simple. There's on our slide, there's also Presto, which was a Foxtel Channel 7 joint venture. That is gone, finished. So you now need to use Foxtel Now for that. Now, the last one we hadn't mentioned was Foxtel Now in Australia. Foxtel Now is their product because Foxtel don't know what they're doing, to be perfectly honest. They're trying to put together they're trying to not be in the streaming market without cannibalizing their traditional subscription television model. So they have a Foxtel Now product and it says from $10 a month. However, it depends on what channels you want to watch. So really, if you put together all of the different Foxtel Now options, which you still don't get the full suite of Foxtel channels, you get, I think it costs about $85 a month. They're in SD. And they don't have an app, for example, for the Apple TV, but you can get it on the Sony Smart TVs or on your iOS device. Telstra TV and the Foxtel streaming box also has that as well. So there's a few different options on there. But once again, it depends on what you want. And they split the channels up depending on what you particularly want to look at. Now, the other thing about Foxtel Now is that they do include live channels as part of it. So there is some options available on there, but it just, once again, depends on what you want. If you want it for sport, it's like $29. You have to buy a minimum, a standard pack, which starts at $10, but then you have to pay $29 for sport on top of that. So you're going to be spending a minimum of $40 if you want sports channels, a minimum of $30 if you want the movie channels, Or if you're happy with one of the lifestyle or the comedy packs, then you can pay $10 or $15.
I'd really love it if they did true proper a la carte where you said, all right, I want this show, that show, that show, and you didn't have to buy a whole package just for potentially watching one show.
Yeah, I cannot see them wanting to do that. So,
No.
um,
But in relation to the point you made about them um, not hurting their other side of their business, like their normal kind of Foxtel business, every company of that size who have got their pie in different finger in different pies have got that problem. Even Telstra, like the Telstra, the phone company,
yep.
now with mobile services and internet services, their old-fashioned PSTN network has obviously been almost abandoned.
Yeah, and they're banning it themselves. Look, the thing is, the other interesting thing about Foxtel is that there's Telstra even suggesting that Foxtel should be listed publicly on the stock market. And to me, that says that they think they're at peak value.
Yep.
They're not going to get any better than they are in anything else. They've already written down some of the value of Foxtel because they've actually started having negative subscriber growth. They've got a new CEO. Personally, if you want Foxtel to remain relevant, cut the price in half. If you gave me a full Foxtel subscription with HD for $60 a month, I'd consider having it.
Yep.
But until you do that, I don't. You know, in the United States, you can pay about $120 a month, and get unlimited internet on fiber and a cable TV subscription.
Yeah.
With 500 channels. Now, I know America's a very different market, and how cable television is set up in the United States is very different as well. But you've got Foxtel have been, to get a full package of Foxtel, I mean, I had Foxtel 18 years ago, and it was about $90 a month. And they need to drop it. They need to drop the price because people are going, well, the reason why they're going to Netflix, the reason why they're going to Stan is because the prices are a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I've just dropped my regular Foxtel service, and we had the HD package and the movies and all that kind of stuff, and we were paying $106. And I may even been, because I'm ex Telstra, I may have even been still getting my staff discount. But don't quote me.
There you
go. So yeah, for regular people, it probably would have even been more.
I think it is. I think I know someone who's paying $130 a month. So, it's all a bit ridiculous. The other product that's out there, which technically is a streaming service, is also Fetch TV. That we haven't mentioned. We might take that slide back down at the moment, Shayne. Fetch TV is really a Foxtel alternate, but it doesn't have all the same channels on there. So they are sort of a side thing, but I think the Fetch TV has appeal for a lot of people who might want. There was some like foreign language channels and things like that, but it never really had enough content that would be interesting to me at all. So I never bothered.
Are they a separate streaming company, or are they? Because I've only really heard them in association with like an Optus kind of package.
Yeah, because they were providing the Fetch TV product to you can buy them standalone and set up with them from standalone, but they were being used to be bundled in with providers. So iiNet and Internode were offering Fetch TV. They're slowly moving away from it because they were bought out by TPG, but Optus were probably pushing them the most. And for example, Optus bought the rights to English Premier League for Optus subscribers, and they were using the Fetch TV model to deliver that as well. So, but the thing is that the model here is very different because in Australia, in the United States, when you're looking particularly on cable television, there's two types of cable channels. One's called premium. There's basic cable. You might hear them talk about basic cable, and then there's premium cable. So when you've got a basic cable station in the United States, you effectively provide that for free to the cable providers. And then what you do is you have to recover your costs through advertising, like a standard traditional model, but you're delivered via cable provider. Then you have premium cable, which you're looking at things like HBO or Showtime and things like that, where the cable providers will still pay the provider to have that channel on their service. So, HBO has been, Netflix is the new HBO because of the premium sort of service. So, so you've had that two-tier model, and you could effectively set up a channel, and if you could get it through into the cable providers, then it becomes available and on the system. In Australia, Foxtel own all the channels, bar a couple. And in fact, they own more of their channels now because they've bought Fox Sports in-house, which was actually owned out on it as a side product and things like that. But they actually own all of their channels. So therefore, Foxtel have a bit of a closed shop on who gets access to that. Now, yeah, they've got to recover costs, and I completely understand that. But I would have thought that 2 million subscribers would be at half the price would be better than, or even 3 million subscribers at half the price would be better than 1 million subscribers at full price. Because not only, like some people go, oh, I pay $130 and I shouldn't have ads on Foxtel. I agree, but would you be more likely to accept ads if you only paid $60 a month? I think you probably would. So
Just on that point, because when Foxtel, if my memory serves me correctly, when Foxtel first came out, and one of the selling points was the fact that because you were paying for it, it was either going to be ad free or there was only going to be ads in between shows and not during shows. And
there was actually legislation to limit the amount of advertising, but that was grandfathered. Like that was always going to slow down anyway. It was limited advertising for the first few years. The thing is, they don't put ads on during movies. They don't put ads on, like during the football, they'll only play ads at the actual main breaks of the game, not in the middle of the game like the free-to-air TV does. So, there is some things there, but I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. There's shows that I want to watch, but I'm not going to pay $120.
do you get ads on, and this is probably a stupid question, but do you get ads on services like Netflix and Stan?
No, you don't. However, so there's two other services that I do use, which are the grey area that we'll talk about later on, which is CBS All Access and Hulu out of the US. They have two tiered plans where you can pay a price where you do get limited commercials, and you can pay a higher price where you have no commercials. I pay the lower price, so I don't care about the commercial side of things. So, fine.
You need an opportunity to have a toilet break.
Yeah, and I quite like watching American ads. So it's not the same stuff that I normally get here.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's some of the services. Now, we'll go into some of the other services that are available, and then we'll talk about how do you get access to them, how do you watch them, and things like that.
So on that point, does that include the free-to-air stuff and the Freeview and whatever? You're going to go into that?
Yeah, so there's in Australia, on top of the paid subscription services, all of the TV stations also have the catch-up services as well. So ABC has iView, SBS On Demand, 9 Now, 7 Plus, 10 Play. I think I've got them all now. There you go. And then there's an overarching little product called Freeview or Freeview Plus. Now, the thing is, the Freeview Plus is really just a layer that is built into the electronic program guide on some of the newer TVs. That if you choose to look at, you can go back in the guide and see a program you was on yesterday. You can click into that, and it will take you to a streamed version of it. what it actually does is it pushes the user into the catch-up service. So it doesn't
Like an aggregator, I guess.
yeah, it's like a catalog layer rather than a service by itself. But that's not a bad thing. It's good. But all those services are free. Obviously, the commercial channels do have they're advertiser supported. But I find the ads are there's not as many ads as there are on a normal television service. However, I do find with Nine in particular that their ads are substantially louder than the program.
Usually that criticism is labelled at Channel 10, but yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd have to go back and have a listen to it. I haven't watched it recently, but we found that there was points last year where we were like, "Wow, that's really loud," and have to turn it down during the ad.
Yeah. So, given that they're obviously a catch-up service and you can watch stuff historically, I'm guessing, I can't go back and watch an episode of Sons and Daughters from the 80s. There's obviously some limitation of how far back they go.
Yeah, and it will come down to what the individual service wants to put on there. Nine, for example, is co-owner of Stan. So they often will push some of their older catalog items onto Stan. So you might get, episodes, the last 5 or 6 episodes of a show on their catch-up service. But then you'll find that the whole season or the last 2 seasons will be on Stan.
Okay.
So it just depends on what they do. ABC's even selling content to Netflix. The ABC's even talked about charging for older content as a standalone service as well.
Yeah.
So it just comes down to who does what and how. I noticed that even some content from Seven has been sold to Netflix. I think the Zumbo's Just Desserts program that was on last year, a reality show, is available on.
Okay.
The other thing that Netflix are doing is that they're undertaking co-investment opportunities worldwide. So, for example, you'll like talk about Netflix original series, and a good one, 2 good ones actually. That's interesting is Designated Survivor, which is a show with Kiefer Sutherland. It's on I think it's on the ABC network in the United States, but Netflix purchased the rights for everywhere outside of the United States. So it's on free-to-air TV in the US, and it's on Netflix everywhere else.
Yeah.
Um,
That raises an interesting point that people probably need to be aware of, because they may know Netflix obviously from the big kind of conglomerate that it is in the US, but content in our version of Netflix isn't anywhere near as kind of extensive as what they get in the US for a whole bunch of licensing reasons and stuff, which is where you're more of an expert in than what I am.
Yeah, and look, Netflix have a preference where they're moving away from having limited access libraries. So a good example was there was talk of there was a show that was a spin-off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Agent Carter. And that had 2 seasons on ABC in the US, and they decided not to renew it. And people going to Netflix, you should produce a 3rd season, so on and so forth. And Netflix actually said, we're actually interested in doing it, but we would only do it if we could get the worldwide rights for seasons 1 and 2. So that they would want to do that, so that they could have all of them on at one hit. So they decided against it. So Netflix are moving to a model where they might do the TV show it's on free to air in one market and Netflix everywhere else, but part of that deal also is that they get the series that they didn't air first run on Netflix later.
Mm-hmm.
So if that makes sense, so they will put it on there a period of time. But in general, they're going, well, we want something available in all markets. So in Australia, Netflix have just started production on their first Netflix original series in Australia. They filmed in Australia. I can't remember the name of it, but it's being produced as we speak. It's fully Netflix funded series. But the other ones that they're co-producing, for example, there was an ABC TV series called Glitch with and I can't remember the actor that was in it, but he was in No Activity. But they, ABC produced the first series. Netflix are co-producing the second series. So around the world outside of Australia, it will be a Netflix original. And in Australia, it's an ABC TV show that will appear on Netflix after the season.
Okay.
So, and even the other one was Star Trek Discovery is actually a CBS All Access product in the United States, and will be it's a Netflix series in Australia.
Yep.
So they sort of will do that sort of thing. And unfortunately, there is a difference in content. And weirdly enough, things like in Australia, Friends is available on Stan, but in the United States, the entire back catalogue of Friends is on Netflix.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it just depends on who owns the streaming rights to certain shows.
So one other question before we kind of fully launch into how the US kind of work.
Yep.
One of the advantages that I'm hoping they can think of is the ability to, and I'm hoping this thing exists, the ability to kind of binge watch a whole season all in one hit. Is that a doable thing on the streaming services in Australia?
Well, if they've got it all, yes.
Okay, so they don't
It
have.
depends on what show you're looking at. So, for example, if you're watching Stranger Things, which is a Netflix show, they will have everything available straight up.
Okay.
So you can sit there. When they bought out, I think it was House of Cards season 2 or 3. Netflix have a lot of analytics on who watches and who what their programs and when. And they, for example, they worked out that season 2, I think it was, of House of Cards went for 12 hours and 10 minutes in total. A user had finished watching House of Cards season 2, 12 hours and 15 minutes after it was released. So he only had a 10-minute break.
Oh, really?
So, there's analytics that they do on that. It depends on the platform. For example, CBS All Access released their original content week by week. They don't do it all in one hit, whereas Netflix believe in releasing the entire series in a hit, in a single go.
Because and I'm not even sure if this is on anymore. They kind of pulled it partway through the season, but I watched at least the first 2 seasons of Mr. Robot, and that was probably one of the only things that I was hanging on to Foxtel for, because at the time it was only available through Foxtel. Do you know if they're still making that?
Yeah, they are. They're still making Mr. Robot.
Okay.
So that's on a what network is it on in America?
They got really weird actually.
Yeah, I've watched 1 or 2 episodes and I just haven't continued watching it. And, oh yeah, so it's on a network in the US called the USA Network,
Oh yeah.
which is a basic cable. They've had 3 episodes of total of 32 episodes. So season 3 was 2017. They haven't announced the season 4 yet. So on December 13, 2017, Mr. Robot was renewed for a 4th season, but they just haven't announced when it's on and when it's being made and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, there you go.
Might have to look that up.
Absolutely. So we talked about the Australian services that were available. In terms of so then there's some American service. So then there's the American world of streaming. Netflix is obviously available, and that is available in the United States, which you don't need to worry about getting an American Netflix subscription anymore, because if you've got an Australian subscription and you happen to be traveling in the US, either physically or virtually through VPN, you can access the American catalog. However, Netflix are getting better at determining where you are and how to bypass you trying to get access to their other catalogs. The next option is Hulu. Now, Hulu, I would describe Hulu, and it's very different. But Hulu is America's Stan, if that makes best sense. Or
On steroids.
Stan is the Australian Hulu. In other words, it's sort of that second option. They are a joint venture between the free-to-air TV networks, except for CBS, so Fox, ABC, NBC, Fox, and I'm just trying to think of who else there was. I think that was it. And then there's a few other content providers as well. They work as a catch-up service for free-to-air TV, as well as having content available on there as well. I think Hulu even has Neighbours on it, or it did at one point.
Oh.
So yeah, strange. I know.
So that's an interesting point because there's been a couple of shows that were created over here that have migrated to the US. There's what's that one that was on Stan over here that the US have just picked up? Is it the No Activity one?
Yes. So there's but No Activity. They did an American remake.
So it's all American actors and stuff.
Except for the main actor. One of the main actors is actually the guy who was in the Australian version. He's doing it with an American accent, but he also created the show.
Yep.
But then there's American remakes, but then there's also some of the channels are picking up Australian TV in general.
Yeah, they did the same thing with The Office, didn't they? There's an American office and a British office.
Yeah, so the British office was the original. The American, the British office only went for 14 episodes or something like that.
Oh.
And then there was the American version that went for 7 seasons, but the American version morphed into its own entity in its own right, to be honest. So that sort of went into its own little world.
Okay.
I've never watched the American Office. I was a big fan of the English Office. Started watching the American, went, this is exactly the same. Couldn't watch it anymore. For the first few episodes, stopped watching it, and it got its own identity and apparently was awesome. And I've never caught up. So
Okay.
I really should. So yeah, so there's Hulu. We've talked about Amazon Instant Video, which is actually Amazon Prime Video. You can get that in Australia now. The libraries will be different, but I think you'll start to see it improve. PlayStation View, I'm not too much sure about it, but it was a way to get cable channels through your PlayStation. It sort of had a limited option. It is quite expensive, but it is looking at cable channels and doing live streaming. Sling Orange is again similar to the cable TV replacement. These are all sort of Foxtel Now versions, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So they're cable channels, but they're a bit different. Crackle was a couple of different products in there. I think Crackle was starting to go. But Crackle was a free channel that was advertiser supported that was online. Then we had HBO Go and HBO Now. They're effectively exactly the same content. They're a catch-up service for HBO's TV channel. The HBO Go, you need a cable subscription and it's free, but at HBO Now you can sign up as an independent content platform. And that was $15 a month, US, mind you. Then there's Twitch. Twitch is free, which is advertiser supported. But if you are a Amazon Prime member, because Amazon own Twitch, you can have a Twitch Prime account for free included as part of your Prime subscription. Then you've got a product like Vivo, which is basically all music. It's just music videos and things like that. There's a heap of other different products out there as well. There's YouTube TV, which is, they're providing some subscription, some cable channels and free-to-air TV channels via YouTube. And I know that even people have used that successfully in Australia as well. So there's a few other products around, but it just comes down to, look, with all of these products, it comes down to how much you're prepared to spend a month.
How does you go?
Because you've got to be able to pay for it. Plus, when you're looking at American service, there's the added complexity of how do you pay for it? Will they accept your Australian credit card? Can you buy, vouchers, that sort of thing? And then there's also the cost of, okay, you need a VPN/DNS provider to make the provider think that you're not in Australia.
Yeah.
So you got to factor all those things into the cost. I probably spend about $45 a month, but I have amortized it over different things. So I pay for my Hulu subscription because I have a Hulu subscription. I pay for that off iTunes, my American iTunes account. So I'd actually pre-bought hundreds of dollars worth of credit in American iTunes when the exchange rate was really good, charged that into my iTunes account, and then it's just been taking, the monthly fee off that for years, literally years.
Yeah. How does it work? 'Cause this is where you kind of really shine and you blow my mind with all the stuff you can rattle off about this. But because on that American list,
Yep.
the thing that stands out is with the Amazon and Twitch. Amazon own Twitch, so how does that kind of work? And there's obviously other examples of networks owning networks and they're competitors, but parent company owns them, that kind of thing. How does that all play out?
Depends on how they manage it. So Twitch, I think you can get a Twitch Prime account by itself, but it's probably not worth it. Twitch, have a look. So Twitch, basically, for those who don't know what Twitch is, it's a platform where you can watch people play games. That's the short answer of it. It's a bit more involved than that, but the short answer of it is you can sit there and watch people play games. Twitch.
I guess because their purpose and their content doesn't really overlap the other Amazon service. That's how they can kind of coexist.
Oh, yes. Now, hang on. Have a look. Twitch Prime. I have no idea. But anyway, the point is, I actually don't know if you can buy Twitch Prime by itself. I think you can get a free Twitch account, and Twitch Prime will give you elevated accesses, but you need to be an Amazon Prime or a Prime Video member to get that Twitch Prime account.
Yeah.
So, and I'm happy to be corrected on that if anyone's listening and says, no, you're wrong.
You know who's going to know? Your mate Daniel will know.
Yeah, and I'll ask him already. So, so I will find out, and I can come back to everyone on that. But I think that the companies are looking at buying complementary services. So the one that's not mentioned here because it's a product that doesn't exist at the moment is that it's not even an open secret. They've even said it publicly that Disney are looking at creating their own streaming service. So Disney will be creating their own streaming service because, of course, Disney have a lot of content where they've, had their suite of animated films and TV series over the period of time. But they've also purchased Marvel and Lucasfilm with the Star Wars films and things like that over the journey as well. So that they're looking at doing that. Now, the thing is, if you just went, I'm going to have a Disney service, is it worth paying for? Who knows? But then take into account that they've also just purchased, which is still undergoing, I think, official approvals, but Disney have purchased 20th Century Fox, which includes content like The Simpsons, or the X-Men films, the X-Files, lots of different product that will be all brought into the Disney stable, and you can imagine into a Disney streaming platform. So that becomes and a different level. So it's not just kiddie stuff. So anyone watched the X-Men show Legion? That's pretty full on. There's shows like You're the Worst, which I find hilarious. So there's a number of different programs that will fit in and could all go in under a Disney streaming service that you go, wow, that becomes a pretty compelling platform. So that's where purchases work.
At the moment, all that Disney content is being made available through other providers, whether it be a Netflix or
Yep.
TV channels or whatever. When Disney's streaming service gets up and running,
Yep.
I'm assuming that all that content is going to be taken away from those providers.
Yeah. So Disney or their ABC studios had to have a deal with Netflix regarding, for example, some Marvel characters, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and uh, Iron Fist and things into the Defenders. You would argue that they won't be signing content deals like that anymore. I don't know what the deal is with those particular shows, whether they remain on Netflix or they're still the property of ABC Studios. But that sort of thing is what I'd expect to see going to a new platform. The one thing that I think that they have announced or they're rumored to announce was that they will be doing a Star Wars live action TV series, and that is likely to be on the Disney platform.
Yep.
And that's a nice big bang opener for that product.
Yeah.
So it could be pretty amazing. So yeah, very good. So the ownership rights will play a game. Basically they've signed the studios have signed content deals for a long time with different companies around the world, and they're realizing that they actually could make money direct off the consumer. And if they can make a lot of money direct off the consumer to supplement their other things, they'll be very happy. And the other thing is Disney are amazing at their brand management, because the thing is you also got to remember Disney own things like uh, ESPN as well. So they own sports networks, and they own other branding and things like that they will bring in as part of that sort of service. And they're looking at having ESPN as a standalone sports service and things like that. But Disney like to have a holistic branding strategy. So they will use all of their different channels to support product. So, when they bought Marvel, they were having Star Wars. Star Wars comics were being produced through another provider. Of course, when Disney had already bought Marvel, but when they bought Lucasfilm, all of the Star Wars comics would go through Marvel Comics. All the things they turn around and they push through their own channels. And of course, they own their own TV network in the US, such as ABC. So you will find that even things like when they're doing press for the Avengers, the only time you'll see the whole Avengers cast talking in one group will be on Jimmy Kimmel, which is on ABC. And they go and do the rest of the talk show circuit, they'll only have a couple of them.
Oh, okay.
On different shows. So they do everything to support their own product.
So is Disney kind of the top of the totem pole when it comes to who owns who, or is Disney kind of got a parent company?
No. Disney is the parent company. So Disney are big enough and diverse enough that they probably won't get taken over. But it just depends on the level. Rupert Murdoch and his 20th Century Fox, he split his companies up to News Corp up because the newspaper business was causing problems to their film and TV. So I think 21st Century Fox is the parent company, has things like the Fox TV network and Fox News. They are not going across into the Disney deal. Disney would never be allowed to buy the Fox TV network anyway because of their ABC content in the United States. But Rupert makes too much off Fox News, so he's keeping that at the same time. So, my headphones are playing up.
So in the US, they've got the same restrictions as they do here. Like, over here, you've got, I can't remember the term, but basically the one person can't own a TV station, a newspaper, and a radio station, all kind of in the same market or something on those
Yeah,
lines.
the rules in Australia were a lot more stringent. Those rules are changing. They've changed in Australia now, so things will change a little bit there. But they're less stringent in the United States. But um, but yeah, you wouldn't be allowed to own two TV networks.
Okay.
There's no question about that. So yeah, so there are rules, but it's not the same. But then American television works very differently because there's affiliates and there's a whole level of discussion that goes on that. We could do a whole other episode on it. We won't.
Good.
At the moment, we could. So yeah, there's from the point is from a streaming perspective that there's a lot of options that are available there, and Disney will be looking at using their relatively large clout to put that together and have their own standard. In terms of how you access them, wow, there's another one. VPN, everyone talks about. Remember though, VPNs aren't all created equal. So a VPN service that you use to access content overseas does not necessarily guarantee your anonymity. I remember that. It is designed to let you bypass geo restrictions, not anonymity restrictions. I have a VPN available, but I also use a service, a DNS unblocker. So I manually update the DNS settings on the devices I want to be able to bypass the restrictions. And then when it does a search for the domain name of the content, there's the really bad way of putting it. It will go, oh, this guy's in Australia. Yeah, you can give him all the content you like. So it means that I can have individual device settings like my Apple TVs and things like that, have DNS settings changed where I don't have to try and put those individual devices or my whole network behind a VPN because there can be speed issues as a result of that.
Yep.
And for example, I may want my TV to still appear to be in Australia, but my Apple TV to be in America. Sure.
So you go to the trouble, for the want of a better word, of putting individual settings into the individual devices depending on what you want to do.
Yep. And if you follow on from our episode last week on home Wi-Fi, you could even go so far if you've got the right, router and things like that. You could have it deliver custom settings depending on the device and its Mac address and things like that. I don't bother doing that, but yeah. So I have my devices set up with a DNS service. I use Getflix. But there are also Unblock Us, Unotally. There's a host of services out there that provide dynamic smart DNS services. So it makes you appear somewhere. So, if, for example, in Australia, I have my service set to Australian Netflix, but America for Hulu, Australia for iView and the catch-up services, and I think I've switched on. You can change all these little individual settings. So BBC iPlayer I've got set up to be in England as well. So, there's all these different availability options so that you can use.
So, and just to be clear, again, we're not lawyers, but I'm of the understanding that doing all that kind of stuff, we're not breaking any laws. We might be breaking terms of service, but laws we're okay.
That's correct. From an Australian perspective, you are buying content, you're purchasing content. If you're downloading on torrents and things like that, that's a different story. But when you're using a service that you're paying for, you could be breaking their terms of service, but you're not breaking the law. So even, the government and the ACCC or Choice have said you can use VPN or DNS services to get that content if you're legitimately paying for. So where you can go grey or into black or red, I should say, of course, is things like torrents and what have you. There are other options available, which I'm not even sure of their legality, where I know people who have paid someone in America for a sub login, we'll call it, for a cable service, which allows them to activate their cable catch-up channels. So, for example, like your Foxtel Now type thing or your iView or what have you, they've if they're behind a paywall, you can activate them so you can catch up on any shows you missed on American cable TV. So,
HBO is probably a good example.
perfect example
Of
on
that.
that. So we talked about HBO Go now. That's a service that might be able to be unlocked through that sort of. So the legality of that, I don't know.
The other
I
thing,
really don't know.
yeah, the other thing to mention is that not all the ways of getting into America are going to work for every service. Like Netflix is quite awake to a lot of these methods and still don't allow you to use them.
Yeah, I hear different things about Netflix services all the time. Netflix are getting to the point where they've got so much. They're actually improving their content across the different countries. I've just got to the point where I just leave Netflix in Australia. So,
But the,
Netflix once upon a time when I signed up for them in 2013, they went, "You're not in Australia. You're not allowed to sign up for this service. So you're not allowed to use this service. But we're not going to stop you from signing up for it. And if you happen to be using a tool that makes us think you're in America, we're not going to stop you from doing that either." And they happily took my money for a long period of time.
mm.
But now they're actively discouraging you from accessing that.
Is that because of licensing arrangements? I mean, are they by giving us, or by being complicit, I guess, with allowing people from other countries to access their content? Are they potentially breaking licensing arrangements?
I think, yeah, but I don't think it was not just that as well. I think um, Netflix have a very good system set up in terms of being able to deliver their product. So what Netflix do in Australia, and the others might do it as well, is if you're an internet service provider of reasonable note, Netflix will provide you with what they call the Netflix box. And it is a Netflix server that you can install in your data center, and it automatically updates with any new Netflix content so that when one of your users requests a Netflix show, rather than it going from the Netflix server in the United States, it actually only gets delivered from the box that automatically gets updated sitting in the data center.
It's like a proxy server.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it reduces the overhead of the networks. It also reduces the overhead of Netflix and having to deliver content, individual streams through their content delivery networks and things like that as well. I think it's actually probably cheaper for Netflix to have the consumer accessing localized content.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we've touched on how you kind of get access. I don't know how much more you kind of want to dive into the detail of that. But I'm nowhere near as adventurous as what you are. All I do is basically run a plugin in my Chrome browser called ZenMate,
Yep.
which basically there's a free version and a paid version. The free version is good enough for me because it allows me to get into the US. It does kind of slow down the connection noticeably, as in like if I compared a speed test with it on versus with it off, there's a huge difference, but it's not bad enough to affect the actual experience, I guess.
Yep.
But that's not foolproof either. CBS lets me watch all the stuff there, so I can watch me MacGyver and Big Bang Theory and Bull and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I think Hulu's awake to it, and I think either ABC or NBC are also awake to it.
So I use a DNS unblocker for that, and that works perfectly fine.
Okay.
So I'd have a look at Getflix and see if there's any promo codes. You can often get promo codes for that.
Yeah.
So I'd do that. And you can either choose the VPN option or a DNS option, and that on whatever you like.
I was going to say, funny little anecdote story about VPN. It was only yesterday when I watched it, but I stumbled across this this video where the guy was explaining how VPNs work and how they hide the content in a tunnel.
Yep.
So we did an example where he revved up a Windows 10 box,
Yep.
and without the VPN kind of turned on, and how it all kind of Microsoft does all this phoning home and all this other stuff kind of happens.
Mm.
And then he turned the VPN on, and initially you couldn't see anything. It was just like one thing come. I think it was using Wireshark or one of those to kind of work out what the traffic was doing. But one thing that actually still travelled outside the VPN was the Microsoft telemetry stuff coming out of Windows 10.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how they get around that.
Mm. What happens when you use Microsoft operating system? There's ways to get around it though. So you could put in VPNs at your router level and things like that. So it's diverting all traffic. It's not telling what the software to do and what have you. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Mm.
Is what Microsoft could be looking at. The one thing I was going to mention though, so the other thing to look at is hardware. So how do you want to watch the product? So you've mentioned, Shane, that you don't mind watching it on your computer screen and things like that.
Yep.
Um, uh, there are a host of hardware options out there. The cheapest one, obviously, for things like Netflix and what have you, is the Chromecast. I think it's $49. You can probably get it on cheaper, or sometimes you get a home mini with a Chromecast bundled in, or something like that. And then you can go from anywhere from there to 10 grand for a 85-inch television that has Netflix and some of those smart things built in as well. So it just comes down to how much you want to pay. The Apple TV's out there. There's the Fire TV, the Amazon product, which I think is a bit naff in Australia. I don't think it has the full services available at the moment. There's the Foxtel box, the Now box, which is specifically for their streaming product. And if you're a Vodafone broadband subscriber, they have also announced the Vodafone TV in the last week. And that has, the services like, Netflix and Stan and a few other things like that on it. But it also has its own TV tuner. So you could, if you've got a TV that doesn't get, for example, the MPEG-4 channels, or, you want to watch other things on it, you can actually watch TV, use it to mix in your TV, free-to-air TV, and the Freeview catch up and things like that, along with the streaming service. So that's a pretty cool product as well.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's various products out there, and it just comes down once again cost. The new Apple TV is about $220, but then there's other apps you can get on there as well. You can do the $50 for a Chromecast. You can buy the Telstra TV or some of the other streaming boxes for around $100 to $130. So that could be what the aim that you want. And also, where do you want to watch it? Do you want to watch it on a TV? Do you want to watch it on? Are you happy to watch it on a computer screen? You can just do it out of the browser. So there are various options available out there. All comes down to your personal budget.
I know it's the case with the TV, the Foxtel TV, but with this new Vodafone one, is that also just basically a rebranded Roku box?
I think it's an Android-based box,
Oh,
and I don't know much more about it at this stage. It's been announced. I've seen a couple of pictures of it, and that's about it. And it looks, Vodafone New Zealand have Vodafone TV, and it looks like a different box to that.
okay.
I think it's based on the same thing. So, for example, the Telstra TVs are Roku branded. The Telstra used to have the T box, which they're basically depreciated now. That was a third party NetGem box that they had branded and bought in. So usually it's a generic box that's available somewhere else.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we've pretty well covered it.
I think we have, because I think we've done the Australian stuff, we've done the US stuff, we've done how to get the US stuff.
Yeah.
We touched on, we've looked at the Disney thing coming down the pike. We've touched on all the companies and who owns who and all that kind of stuff. So just on that, because this is kind of your thing. Who are the actual parent companies? Who are the top of the tree? You got your Viacoms and Disney and.
So Viacom owns Paramount Studios and CBS. I'm correct. Disney owns ABC networks in the United States and a few other things, obviously. Then you've got NBC Universal, and I'm not quite sure if Comcast still The NBC situation, I'm not 100% sure. They were bought out by a cable company called Comcast, but then I don't know if they're still involved. But NBC and Universal are sort of all tied in together.
Okay.
And then there's also the CW, which is a sort of a network in America, which is owned by Warner Brothers. So there's the CW is a bit of a strange network. I'm not sure when that's on and what have you. But yeah, television networks in America are an unusual beast, and how they brand it and how they work and things like that. So
Yeah.
um,
You've got
there's
Time Warner over there as well, haven't you?
yeah. So Time Warner, it was AOL Time Warner. So Time Warner owns Warner Brothers, which then owns the CW.
Oh, okay. And there was another weird thing that when I was in the US, both times I think, you had, I think it was Harry Potter. There was certain things that was at Universal Studios, but then Warner Brothers actually owns the Harry Potter movies, or at least
Yeah,
some of them.
because so Warner Brothers. So for example, we're unusual in Australia. We have a Warner Brothers theme park
Mm.
up on the Gold Coast. They don't have a Warner Brothers based theme parks in the US, so they've licensed the Harry Potter stuff to Universal.
Okay.
And there was an article I read on that, and apparently J.K. Rowling gets like 2% or something like that on every ticket sold to a Universal theme park that has the Harry Potter stuff.
You'd be comfortably wealthy.
Yeah, I'd say so. The only other person that's been given that sort of deal was Spielberg. So when they were doing ET stuff, Jurassic Park, and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah. So that's it's all licensed. That's licensing and things like that. For example, Fox owned The Simpsons. But The Simpsons have a ride at Universal, but now Disney's buying The Simpsons.
Oh yeah, they did. It's so interesting if they rip that out.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? You never know. It might move to Disney World one day.
Yeah.
Disney might be happy to have that as a content that doesn't sit in Disneyland. So,
No,
who knows? There's a long way to go on that. That's going to be a gestating story over the next few years. So, yeah. So ownership of things are a bit strange, and how the American television system works is very different to Australia. So, yeah, very unusual. We could, as I said, that's something we could talk about for a long period of time.
Mm.
But we don't really understand how it works in Australia. Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
I think we might wrap it up though.
Yep.
We've been talking for a while. If you have any questions, if you think we've missed out on anything, remember to send us an email, mytechopinion@prosumerit.com, and we will answer it for you, whether directly or on our next program. We have our next program sorted out though. In episode 8, we'll have a special guest, Shayne. You can tell us all about our special guest.
Yes, we've got Adam Turner, who's a tech journalist. He'll be joining us in our next episode.
Excellent.
Basically, the sort of things that we'll be talking about. He's going to normally we have like the news section, and then separately we do the kind of guest spot because he's a tech journalist, and obviously that overlaps into the news kind of world. There's a good chance that we need to kind of iron out the finer details, but there's a good chance that he'll be joining us for the whole show.
Excellent.
So that should be good. There was something else I was going to mention about him. So the things that he does. He's a tech journalist, and primarily or even solely he's a print journalist. I think he writes for the Sydney Morning Herald.
Fairfax Media in general. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. He's based in Melbourne. So he's in your part of the world. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That should be really good because I mean, I know him, and I don't know him well, but the interactions that I've had with him, he's a pretty cluey guy, and obviously down to earth. And we're going to be talking to him about how to get into the world of tech journalism and the pros and cons, and how he feels about citizen journalism and people doing their own blogs and and people like us doing their own podcasts.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
That should be good.
Awesome. So we're going to have that on. You'll see that come up on the next week or next, it's 2 weeks might be.
Yeah.
We'll see. On My Tech Opinion. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Remember though that My Tech Opinion is supported by Aussie Tech Heads Web Hosting, and for great hosting plans and support, visit athwebhosting.com.au. All of our previous episodes are available at the My Tech Opinion website, prosumerit.com/MTO. And of course, remember to subscribe to us on the Apple Podcast app or through your other services. And remember to leave a review because it helps us get noticed and gets more people to listen to the show. I think that's about it. I think we've covered everything.
I think we've done well.
Excellent. From Melbourne, this has been Phil Edwards, and in Perth,
this is still Shayne.
Excellent. Thanks very much. And until our next episode 8 of My Tech Opinion, we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.